Yeah.
Welcome everyone to Pep Talks number 3 with my friend Jaymelee. Jayme, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Now, I want you to tell me a bit about yourself, but you were saying this was a bit you find a bit daunting. Why?
Because I think when somebody says, "Tell me a bit about yourself," like when you ask yourself the question, you could probably think of a load of things to say. But when somebody else asks you that question, you think, "Well, I don't know. Who am I?" You know, all of it. You just go blank. You just go blank.
So, to make it a little bit easier for you, I'm just going to ask you some questions. And this little section is called Who Am I?
Yeah.
Question number 1. Who are you?
I am Jaymelee Richards Smith, but to keep it short and sweet, everyone likes to call me Jay. I'm 23 years old, soon to be 24. I'm a tattooist by profession, and the majority of my life I grew up in Rugeley.
Question number 2. Where did we first meet?
That I genuinely cannot remember because I was probably still sucking my thumb at that age. But we met through my mum being best friends with your wife.
Question 3. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely atrocious and 10 being wonderful, how good are you as an artist?
I'm going to be quite relaxed with myself and say I'm probably about 7, because I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'd say fair 7.
After this interview, there'll be lots and lots of people disagree with you. You're a 9 and a 10 all day in my book. Like I said, Jayme, I knew you when you were a toddler, and you were an amusing little child. And the only word I can, thank you, the only word I can think to describe you was quirky. Is that fair?
I'd say that's a light way of putting it. I mean, what my mum would say about me is something that I can't share with the public. Let's put it that way.
It's a family show. There's children going to be watching this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, what word or words would you have to describe the young Jayme?
To put it mildly, I'd probably say mischievous and ignorant. Didn't like talking to people. In fact, I didn't like people at all, apparently. I think that was the problem of being an only child, just stuck in a primary school with loads of kids, going from like being the only child to being surrounded by loads of kids. It's like, oh, you know, you just come a bit, I think it was overwhelming for me as a kid.
So from the little quirky child that was perhaps a bit mischievous, she was a bit of a Dolly Daydream. And I remember you had a lovely way of speaking, but you were always a bit like this, and you really spoke slowly, and it was lovely. But you came to my attention when I realised your mum said that you were doing lots of art. And like you said, I hadn't really spoken much to you because you didn't speak. But you first come to my attention when I realised you were a genius when I saw this. What was that all about?
I was in my final year at college doing that piece, and it was my final unit. So I had 6 weeks to produce a piece of work, anything of my choice. So I just picked animal portraits. I like doing portraits anyway, whether it be in animals or people. So, but towards the end of that, I just hated it because I spent so long on it that I was just glad to see it gone.
Do you do that with some of your art? You know, like I've seen lots of your art, lots and lots of it, and I love it all. But once you've done it and people say, oh, that's brilliant, do you lose interest in it very quickly?
All the time. I contradict myself because I know that you have to have patience and time with art because it is time consuming. But sometimes I'm very impatient. If I'm not seeing the results pretty much instantly, I just ignore it and move on to the next piece. Like, I like my art to be rapid, and by producing multiple pieces a day, I don't want to just do like a piece a day, because with being an artist, you have so many ideas, you just want to get them all out at the same time, but you can't. You have to take one by one, or else they'll never get finished.
This process of self-development, what advice would you give to young artists and against those ones that are self-critical of themselves?
You can't compare yourself to other artists. I think that's one of my biggest mistakes, is comparing myself to other artists. Like when they produce a piece of work that I think, oh my god, that's amazing, and then I look at mine thinking like, why am I not as good as that? And they've probably, but then I'm not thinking how long they must be doing it for. Like they've probably been doing it a lot longer than I have. They must have started earlier than I did. And everyone's on their own journey when it comes to art. So like everyone's had their own experience. Some people might have not pursued it as a thing in college or school or university. They probably only picked it up for the past couple of years or so and just doing it as a hobby. So you can't compare yourself to other people because everybody's different.
Right, it's photo time again, Facebook or Instagram photo time. Again, as you said, you're not the complete artist and you've still got a lot of work to do. I'm just going to ask people, first of all, who is this gentleman?
I used a software called Procreate on my iPad Pro for that.
And so again, another one that looks nothing like the person himself. Can't you see that both those? Can't you see that both of those pieces of work are the work of a genius?
I think maybe other people would probably see that like, oh my god, that's amazing. How do they even do that? But because I found it quite relaxing to do, because I just didn't really have to think about it. I just knew what I was doing, and it was satisfying to do because I could do it. But that was a recent skill that I learned like during this crisis. I haven't obviously been able to work, but I've been putting my focus onto things that I haven't had time to do, and that one of them was digital painting. Now that I've had the time, I've managed to find the right brush sets, the right tones, and the right format for doing it. So now that I'm actually producing the stuff that I wanted to produce, it just becomes easy to me.
So, like you said, Jayme, and I know you've been drawing since you were a little girl, and still a young lady now. But you'd have been doing crayons when you were a little girl. Then you'd have moved on to pencil crayons, and you'd have paints. And I've seen lots of you paint when I've been around the house. You like drawing and painting on skin.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
How do you start? What's your first piece of work you do? I mean, because that's forever, isn't it? So how
Yeah.
did it? How can you? Because a piece of paper you can throw it away. You can't throw a piece of skin away. So what do you have
That
to do?
thing that probably used to terrify me the most when I was doing my apprenticeship. It gave me so much anxiety when I first started out because I didn't know what I was doing. It was like learning how to draw all over again on skin, because there was just so many things that you had to remember. But it's like anything, the more that you do of it, the more it becomes second nature to you. You know, like driving the car, like the first time you drive a car, you're a nervous wreck, but after so many times, it's like you can just switch off whilst doing it. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say I could do tattooing my eyes closed. I would never attempt that in a million years. But yeah, how I started off from doing it, like my boss, my mentor, he advised me, you got to start small to be able to do the big. And it's advice that I'd advise to anybody wanting to start tattoos. Like, you don't run before you can walk, because if you start running before you can walk, you're just going to trip up and start back at square one again. So,
What was your first ever tattoo? The first time you put needle to skin? Can you remember?
oh, the first tattoo I did was on my boss's leg. It was like this all-seeing eye. It was probably about that big, but for my first tattoo, thinking it was like, oh my god, this is massive. How am I going to do this? and just the line work took me about 3 hours to do, and if people could see it, they'd think, what is that? It was just atrocious. I keep asking him today, like, can I please fix that? And he's like, no, anytime you mess up or do something that I'm actually proud of you for, I'm just going to show you this as a reminder of where you once came from. So yeah, it's just a constant reminder of how terrible I used to be.
Again, Jaymelee, going on to Instagram and Facebook and your archive, I want you to introduce you to a couple of friends of mine. I want you to tell me a bit about them and where they were in their life.
Oh, that's funny. That was me about 3 years ago in Barcelona. I mean, the facial expression isn't exactly what I was thinking. I mean, a lot of people think I've got a resting B-word face, shall we say. But I'll just be staring into space thinking of, like, I don't know, oh, what am I going to have for tea?
Who took that picture?
My mum.
Your mum being a hairdresser, that's creativity in itself, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Again, that's so we looked at that picture. Here's another picture of somebody you might know. She looks really, really happy.
That's my concentration face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone has one.
Can you remember what tattoo you were doing there that day?
I remember who it was on. I just can't remember what I was doing.
Okay. Is that you at your happiest, would you say?
What, tattooing?
Yeah.
Especially when I'm doing a piece that I know is going to turn out that way that I want it to. Especially if it's like something that I've drawn originally. Like, if I get a lot of satisfaction out of people wanting stuff that I've designed. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy any kind of tattooing because it's fun. It's, you know, not a lot of people can say that they enjoy their job, so I'm grateful for that. But I'm at my happiest when I'm tattooing something that is come from my own mind and I can see it on somebody else. The fact that that person is wanting something that I've created on their skin is the satisfaction that I want.
You've got tattoos and you love them. Do you ever think you'll get fed up of them?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I've always liked tattoos. I've always loved tattoos. Even before I wanted to be a tattooist, I always found them just attractive on people, especially like just being covered in them. Like I appreciate good tattoos anyway. I just wanted to be covered in tattoos to look like what I find attractive. Do you know what I mean? So
Good.
all my tattoos don't necessarily mean anything, but because I like the look of them, I just have them on me.
Would you ever have any on your neck or your face?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd probably go up to my collarbone.
Yeah.
I'd probably go at the back of my neck. Probably not on the front because I think my mom would just get rid of me as a child.
Yeah. And so would your Uncle Pep. Yeah, this section I'm going to call Would you like your granny to have a tattoo? Now, you are a young lady at 23, and obviously your skin is still taut, and it's because you're a young lady, and things are all, as a young lady, things are all in the places it should be. But sometimes as we get older, things start to slip and to sag and to get baggy. Fast forward 50 years, you are going to have 50, 60 years, you are going to have people's great grandmas that are covered in tattoos. And what's your views on that?
Well, we're in a generation where tattoos are very commercialized, so you'll be the minority if you don't have a tattoo. So by the time I'm a grandma and the people before me and after me and they're covered in tattoos and they're aging, it will just become the norm. So I don't think it will really matter so much.
What's the oldest person you've tattooed?
think they were in their 80s.
Really?
Yeah.
And can you remember what it was?
Memory of their husband,
Yeah.
because the husband didn't like tattoos, and then when he passed away, she wanted a tattoo in memory of him. So
now I know you love your grandma, and sadly, I know you loved your granddad, and he passed away, recently. But I know you love your grandma. What if she said she wanted a tattoo? What would you say?
I'd say no.
Why not?
I don't think I'd want to do it. I don't know, inflicting pain on my own grandma. No.
It's just wrong. It's just wrong, Pep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then. So I'll have a speak to you. What's your nan's name again?
Pat.
Pat. If I say to Pat, fear not, Pat, you don't have to have a tattoo. That's brilliant. Now, again, I'm going to show a few more of your pictures, if you don't mind. For older people, like there's only people in the 50s will get this, but I thought this was a guy called Alan Wicker. But it's not Alan Wicker. It's who is it? I do know who it is now.
Stan Lee.
Who was the creator of the Marvel comics?
Yeah.
Why Stan Lee?
I think I drew that just after he passed away. I wanted to get back into my portrait drawings because at the time I wasn't really doing much. It was just when I just started tattooing. I said to my gaffer, because he's a massive Marvel fan, I was like, who shall I draw to start me off? He's like, why don't you draw Stan Lee, in memory of him? So I went with that. Turned out better than I thought, to be fair. So it's probably a piece of art I'd say I'm proud of.
So DC Comics and Marvel Comics, they're renowned for their superheroes. Not all heroes wear capes. So who's in your life that's a real hero to you? Somebody that's been inspirational in your life, someone you look up to, and they don't necessarily wear a cape. So who's your real life superhero? My
mom, definitely. But over the years, I've had a lot of issues like mentally and anxiety and depression, as a lot of people would have experienced themselves, and she's helped me through a lot of that, and even down to the advice, even though it's not always the best advice, but because she's a mom and she sees her child in distress, like all she wants to do is help, and that's a sign of a good mom, that she'll want to do anything that she can in her power to help me. And when I look back thinking like, well, I feel like I haven't really worked for what I've got because my mom's given it to me, but and a lot of people can't say that they've had that, so I'm very lucky to have a mom like her.
Now, you touched upon something there a minute ago that you and I have both sort of suffered with, the older dark demons. And I think that's part of being, I think it's like the curse of the artist, as you know. Yeah, what I have to do is every interview I have to plug my book, Peter Pants.
Yeah.
And it should be joined soon by Quentin the Squirrel. I've actually, was probably about 10, 15 minutes into the interview before I've got that one out. But we're both artists. I'm an artist with words. You're an artist with paints. But that comes with certain downfalls. So,
massively.
Does your anxiety come from your art?
I think it comes from a lot of things. And unfortunately, I don't really know where it's truly stemmed from. But I've had like bad experiences with like ex-partners and stuff like that, and just people in general, being made to feel like you're not good enough, and you lose a sense of who you are, like you lose your self-worth, so you forget who you are in a sense. So there was a time where like I just needed to take a break from people in general and just kind of focus on what I liked and what I was into, what I didn't like, what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, and just, I know it's a bit cliche, but kind of work off, as a lot of people say, to really know who I was. And I think even now, I'm getting better each day. With my art, I still think sometimes like that's not good enough. That's not going to be good enough. And I won't listen to people. That's my biggest problem. I won't listen to people's opinions if it's good, because I just don't
You've
believe.
got to.
I don't believe it. Because I'm just so quick to judge myself. It's like, well, if I'm going to be so quick to judge myself, then, you know, I always think that other people are going to be quick to judge me because I judge myself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, like, I think part of that makes me quite an anxious person to even meet new people or talk to people, because I just think they're going to judge me because I'm judging myself. There's no reason why they can't judge me for this, this, and this, you know, because you look at yourself and you can picture all of your flaws and you can name all of them. And what makes you think that?
But that's what they're doing as well. When they come to you, they come with their own baggage and they're thinking you're judging them, and all of us. So to me, it's self-centered fear, and it's that. And like we've said before, you know, we trade little sound bites, but fear tells lies. And if you listen to that little inner voice, it'll tell you you're useless. Is there you seem now, Jayme, I've known you 20 years, you're 23 and I've known you 20 years, and obviously you seem you seem in the best place you've been at the moment. You seem really happy.
And not being at work yet is a bummer. Obviously I enjoy what I do, but it doesn't mean that I have to stop being creative.
No.
Because I can still draw, I can still paint. So I'm making the best out of a bad situation, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's doing you all the good.
Yeah.
I was going through your tattoos. I hope, please tell me this is one of yours. Of all the tattoos that I've seen, this is my favourite. Is that one of yours?
Yeah, that's one I've done.
Who was it? What was it about?
You know what? It was just one of those tattoos that he was like, "Yeah, it's cool. I like it. Just stick it on."
I want a whale on a penny farthing with a pipe and a top hat and a monocle.
Had no meaning whatsoever. He just liked it and just wanted it. So I was like, "Yeah, stuff it. Let's go."
What, is it gone on his leg or his arm, or?
I want to say it was on his arm. I think it's on his arm. I think it's there. I want to say, yeah. Ages ago, to be fair.
I just love that one. For any young artists, are they artists, tattoo artists, people have got a bit of a skill, what advice would you give them?
To not worry about what is going to happen next, because you don't know. I mean, I think if I had known where I was going to be now back then, I don't think I would have stressed out so much. But because it's the fear of the unknown, isn't it? You don't know what's going to happen next. In fact, I'm going to say the advice is actually advice given to me from one of my friends, and they said, like, where you are now is where you are meant to be.
Absolutely.
So don't rush it.
Yeah.
Because where you're going to be in a few years' time is probably where you want to be.
Great advice. So, Jaymelee Richards Smith, that brings our interview to an end, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
So it was, and it's been good because I've known you for 20 odd years, but it's probably the longest conversation we've ever had. And I've been quite sensible. Yeah, it's just been wonderful. Really, really enjoyed it. So I tell everybody, shine in all you do, scatter sunshine everywhere you go, and always, always remember, just be brilliant.
Thank you.
Love you ever so much.
Love you.
See you later. Bye-bye, love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.